let's talk about deal breakers. Well, what is a deal breaker when it comes to buying a house? At the end of the day, it's the reason you chose not to buy the house. And many times buyers don't even realize what their deal breakers are until they're already in the mix of shopping and going on showings, going to open houses, and they realize, I wouldn't buy this house. And those are the multitude of reasons why a buyer chooses not to go forward on the purchase, and we're going to talk about what those are today. At the end of the day, the reason that buyers choose not to move forward on their purchase a lot of times has to do with the things that they cannot change. So because of either time or money, or just because it's not possible to change it. For instance, location is one of the things that buyers simply can't change. That's the one thing they can't change about a house, is where it's located. The other things that can be changed many times cannot because of time or money or resources. So whenever a buyer is looking to purchase a property with us, we sit down and have a buyer consultation with them, and we find that it's the first time they've ever thought about what is a deal breaker for them in purchasing a house. And when they're purchasing with a partner, it's a lot of times the first time they've ever talked to each other about what each other's deal breakers are, and a lot of times they are not on the same page with each other. So that's always a fun conversation to have. So what are some common deal breakers that we see? Well, a lot of people, as you may have guessed, can be very polarizing: pool or no pool. So that is one very common one. Something that we see people relocating here from out of state, a deal breaker for them can be where the primary bedroom is located, either downstairs or upstairs. That would be a reason they choose not to buy the house. How many garage spaces does the house have? Or does it even have a garage at all? Is it attached or detached? Is it a 1-story or a 2-story? Is it a fixer-upper? And what does that mean exactly? Sometimes we say, oh, I'm open to doing some work on the house. What does that mean to you? Does that mean paint? Does that mean carpet? Does that mean removing a wall? Does that mean a total renovation? So be specific with us on what exactly you're looking for and how much work you're willing to do in the property. Sometimes deal breakers can be, for a lot of people relocating here from other parts of the state even, whenever we have alleyways where the garage and the driveway is actually in the back of the house, that can be a deal breaker for a lot of people. They're not used to that. They're not used to having the driveway be in the front of the house. So also location is a big deal breaker. How far are you willing to commute to work every day? We have a really cool tool in our MLS called the commuter tool. So I can actually put in your work address and tell it, I want to arrive at this work address on Monday by 10 a.m. or 9 a.m., 8 a.m., whatever time you get to work, within 20 minutes. And it will actually show me on the map exactly all the locations of homes that fit your criteria within that commute time. So it's really cool. You'll have to ask me about that. I'd be happy to show you what that crazy map looks like. Also, a deal breaker can be whether the house is located in an HOA or no HOA. We also have voluntary HOAs here. And a really big one to me that I encourage a lot of people to think about is it a deal breaker if the house backs to a busy street? Or if it backs to commercial property? Or if it backs to those big commercial power lines, not just the ones in the neighborhood? What if it backs to a piece of undeveloped land that we don't know what's going to be put on that land? What if it backs to a school and there's Friday night football games there? Lot size can be a deal breaker. Some people moving across state or changing lifestyles, they want a certain type of lot size, either smaller or larger than what they're coming from, and that's their hard line in the sand, and they're not willing to budge on that. And that's okay. We just need to define what those deal breakers are. Also, school districts can be a big deal breaker. If you've got kids in school and you have to be in a certain school district or zoned to a certain school within that district, that can be a big deal breaker. So I want to give you a few real-world examples of our clients who have found themselves in these deal breaker type situations and what happened with them. So we actually had a client recently who was interested in purchasing a property, and the wife wanted a pool, had to have a pool, and the husband just didn't really care about a pool. They didn't even know that about each other until we sat down with them for the consultation. So ended up where the wife just refused to look at anything without a pool, and the husband was trying to get her to see other properties, think outside the box, and you can always put a pool in, but she just wouldn't have it. She wanted to move right in and enjoy that pool in this hot summer, and I don't blame her. So I can understand that, and that was her line in the sand, and ultimately they did find a house with a pool. And it helps too to narrow down exactly what you're looking for by knowing that deal breaker, and the husband and wife got on the same page and were able to locate a property that met the criteria and the deal breakers. Next example is a client of ours who safety was really important to them, and they wanted to be in a neighborhood where they felt comfortable walking. Either at night, they worked busy late hours, and after they got off work they wanted to be able to take their dog for a walk in the neighborhood, and wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable and safe in the neighborhood. So we encouraged them to actually drive the neighborhood at night, or whenever they were going to be arriving at home typically, to be able to do those activities before they submitted an offer on the property. Well, our clients took us seriously, and they actually went to the property, I think at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning actually, and wanted to get a feel for what was happening in the neighborhood, and come to find out they were not comfortable. They just weren't comfortable for their safety standards, and ultimately decided not to submit an offer on the property. And I'm so proud of them for doing that, because had they not taken that step to determine if that felt comfortable for them, they would have maybe been under contract on a property and have closed and funded, and then found out later that they weren't comfortable. That's the worst case scenario. So knowing their deal breaker ahead of time about feeling safe and comfortable in the neighborhood, and then taking the steps to educate themselves about that particular neighborhood, was key to their success. And then lastly, we had another client who was interested in a certain school inside of a certain school district. This particular community that they were interested in actually had been rezoned a couple of times, because it was a newer type of community that was up and coming, and they are adding new schools and high schools pretty regularly every couple of years. And so as a result, the neighborhoods keep getting rezoned. And so come to find out, we were under contract on a beautiful home. Everything was perfect about it. And they actually found out, calling the school district, that that property was going to be rezoned, the next school district, to a different high school. And that was a deal breaker for them. So they actually had to terminate, and fortunately they hadn't done an inspection yet, but had to terminate the contract, and they got their earnest money back, because it was during the option period. Luckily, didn't have to have a more expensive whoopsie than that, but those are things that you should always contact the school district about, and make sure that that property, even though it's zoned now to a certain school or school district, doesn't mean that it can't be rezoned in the future. And what does that mean for you and your family? So I hope these are very helpful for you. Make sure to have the conversation with yourself and with your partner, whoever you're buying a house with, about what your deal breakers are. And if you're thinking about selling and can overcome some of these potential buyer deal breakers, I would encourage you to think about how you can do that. Some of them are unavoidable, depending on where your house is located or what the features are in your home. But some of them you can definitely overcome and can start working on now if you're thinking about selling. So hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.